The roar of the ocean seemed to mock Alex Turner as he raced across the beach, his heart thundering in his chest. Ahead of him, a small boy thrashed in the water, his desperate cries growing fainter with each passing second. Without hesitation, Alex dove into the churning waves, every muscle in his body straining against the powerful current. Alex was no stranger to struggle. At 34, he'd been raising his daughter Lily alone for the past 5 years, ever since his wife Julie had succumbed to cancer. He worked 2 jobs construction during the day and bartending 3 nights a week, just to keep their modest apartment and put food on the table. This rare day off was meant to be special time with his 8-year-old daughter, not a desperate fight against the sea. But when he'd spotted the boy no more than 7 drifting too far out, Alex hadn't thought twice. Now, as the salt water burned his eyes and filled his mouth, he pushed forward, his strong arms cutting through the waves until his fingers finally closed around the child's arm. "I've got you, buddy," he gasped, pulling the terrified boy against his chest. "Just hold on to me." The return journey to shore was excruciating. The boy clung to him, his small body racked with sobs, making it harder for Alex to swim. Twice they were pushed under by waves, but Alex refused to surrender. His lungs burned for air, his muscles screamed in protest, but he kept going, kicking with everything he had left. When his feet finally touched the sandy bottom, Alex staggered toward the beach, the boy still clutched tightly in his arms. His vision was beginning to tunnel when he heard a woman's scream. "Owen! Oh my God, Owen!" Alex barely registered the slender figure racing toward them before his knees buckled. Gentle hands helped lower the boy to the sand, and those same hands steadied Alex as he collapsed beside them. "Breathe, honey," the woman was saying to the boy, her voice trembling as she checked him over. "Just breathe for Mommy." Alex rolled onto his back, gasping for air, dimly aware of his daughter Lily running toward them, her face streaked with tears. "Dad, Dad," she cried, dropping to her knees beside him. "I'm okay, Lillipad," he wheezed, reaching for her hand. "Just need to catch my breath." When he finally managed to sit up, Alex found himself looking into the most striking pair of green eyes he'd ever seen. The woman kneeling beside him was beautiful, her dark hair plastered to her face by sea spray, her expression a mixture of gratitude and lingering fear. "You saved my son," she said, her voice breaking. "You saved Owen." Alex ran a hand through his soaked hair. "Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't. You did." She reached out, her fingers lightly touching his arm. "I'm Claire Wilson. And I don't know how I'll ever thank you enough." Before Alex could respond, a small crowd had gathered around them. Someone had called paramedics, and soon both Alex and the boy were being checked over. Throughout it all, Claire remained close, her attention divided between her son and the man who had saved him. Later, as the paramedics were packing up and declaring both Alex and Owen safe to go home, Claire approached Alex again, this time with Owen by her side. "Mr. Turner, Alex," he corrected with a tired smile. "Alex," she amended. "Owen wants to say something." The boy stepped forward, his eyes still red from crying. "Thank you for saving me, sir," he said solemnly. "I'm sorry I went out too far." Alex knelt down to Owen's level. "Hey, it happens. The important thing is you're okay now, but maybe stick closer to shore next time, right?" Owen nodded earnestly. "I promise." Claire placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "We'd like to take you and your daughter to dinner, as a small thank you." Alex hesitated, glancing at Lily, who was hovering nearby. Under normal circumstances, he would have politely declined. He wasn't comfortable accepting rewards for doing what any decent person should do. Besides, he was acutely aware of how he must look soaked through, his faded t-shirt and worn board shorts a stark contrast to Claire's designer swimsuit cover-up. But Lily was looking at him with pleading eyes. Their beach day had been cut short, and dinner out was a rare treat. "That's really generous of you," he said finally, "but we're not exactly dressed for dinner." Claire's smile was warm. Neither are we. I know a great casual place not far from here. Please, I insist. An hour later, showered and changed into dry clothes from their beach bags, Alex and Lily sat across from Claire and Owen at a beachside restaurant. The place was nicer than Alex had expected, with an ocean view and prices that made him wince inwardly. But Claire had insisted this meal was her treat. As they waited for their food, Alex learned that Claire and Owen were on vacation from Boston. Owen was 7, the same age Lily had been when Julie died. Alex found himself watching how Claire interacted with her son, the gentle corrections, the patient explanations, the way she anticipated his needs. It was clear they were close. And what about Owen's dad? Alex asked, immediately regretting his directness. Sorry, that's none of my business, Claire shook her head. It's fine. Owen's father and I divorced when he was 3. Richard lives in London now. He sees Owen a few times a year. Lily, who had been quietly coloring on her kids' menu, suddenly looked up. My mom died when I was little, she announced. She got really sick. A moment of silence fell over the table. Alex reached over to squeeze Lily's hand, his heart aching at how matter-of-factly she stated this painful truth. I'm very sorry to hear that, Claire said gently. That must have been really hard for both of you. Owen studied Lily with new interest. So it's just you and your dad. Like how it's just me and my mom, Lily nodded. Yep, but my dad's the best dad ever. He works really hard and still plays with me and helps me with homework and everything. Alex felt his cheeks warm at his daughter's praise. Lily's the easy part, he said with a small laugh. It's the 2 jobs that wear me out. 2 jobs, Claire repeated, her brow furrowing. Alex hadn't meant to mention that. He shrugged, trying to sound casual. Construction during the day, bartending a few nights. It's not so bad. Something flickered across Claire's face, surprise, perhaps, or concern. But before she could respond, their food arrived, momentarily distracting everyone. Throughout dinner, Alex found himself increasingly drawn to Claire. It wasn't just her beauty, though she was undeniably stunning. There was something about her, a quiet strength, an understated elegance, and most importantly, the obvious love she had for her son. Alex recognized in her the same fierce devotion to parenthood that he felt for Lily. For her part, Claire seemed genuinely interested in Alex's life. She asked about his construction work, laughed at his bartending stories, and listened intently when he talked about raising Lily. There was no pity in her gaze, only respect, something Alex valued more than she could know. As the evening drew to a close, Alex found himself reluctant to say goodbye. It had been a long time since he'd connected with someone this way. Not since Julie had he felt so comfortable in a woman's presence. Outside the restaurant, as the sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Claire pulled out her phone. I'd like to stay in touch, she said, her voice carrying a hint of uncertainty that Alex found endearing. We're here for another week, and maybe we could all do something together again before we go back to Boston. Alex hesitated only briefly before reaching for his own phone. As they exchanged numbers, their fingers brushed, and Alex felt an unexpected jolt of electricity at the contact. From the way Claire's eyes widened slightly, he wondered if she had felt it too. Thank you again, Claire said softly. Not just for saving Owen, but for a lovely evening. It was our pleasure, Alex replied, suddenly aware of Lily leaning sleepily against his side. Right, Lillipad, Lily nodded, smiling shyly at Claire and Owen. Can we really see you again before you go home? Claire knelt down to Lily's level. I would like that very much. Would you and your dad like to come with us to the aquarium on Thursday? Owen has been begging to go. Alex knew Thursday was his day off from construction, and he wasn't scheduled to bartend that night. Still, he hesitated. Claire and Owen were vacationing at one of the most exclusive resorts in the area, a place where rooms cost more per night than Alex made in a week. The gap between their lives felt suddenly vast, but looking at Lily's hopeful face and at Claire's genuine smile, Alex pushed his doubts aside. Thursday sounds perfect, he said. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Alex sat on their small balcony, staring out at the distant ocean. His thoughts kept drifting to Claire, her laugh, her eyes, the way she'd touched his arm in gratitude. It had been so long since he'd allowed himself to think about any woman in that way. After Julie died, Alex had thrown himself into two things: being the best father he could be to Lily, and working enough hours to keep them afloat. Dating hadn't even been on his radar. The few well-meaning attempts by friends to set him up had been disasters, with Alex unable to connect and uninterested in trying. But there was something about Claire that had broken through his carefully constructed walls. Maybe it was the shared understanding of single parenthood. Maybe it was the extraordinary circumstances of their meeting, or maybe it was simply her Claire, with her quiet grace and genuine warmth. Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. It was pointless to think this way. In a week, Claire and Owen would return to Boston, to a life he could scarcely imagine. And he and Lily would continue their modest existence here. For now, he would simply be grateful for Thursday's aquarium visit, one more chance to see Claire's smile before she disappeared from their lives for good. Thursday morning dawned clear and bright. Alex woke early, his stomach fluttering with nerves that reminded him of his teenage years. He spent extra time choosing his clothes, a newer pair of jeans, and a blue button-down that Julie had always said brought out his eyes. He helped Lily pick out her favorite sundress, and even allowed her to wear the little seashell necklace she usually saved for special occasions. "Are we going on a date, Daddy?" Lily asked as Alex combed her hair. The question caught him off guard. "What? No, sweetheart. We're just going to the aquarium with some new friends." Lily gave him a look that was far too knowing for her 8 years. "Mrs. Reynolds says you should date again. She told Miss Garcia at school that you're too handsome to be alone forever." Alex felt his face grow warm. Mrs. Reynolds was their elderly neighbor who had taken it upon herself to mother both Alex and Lily after Julie's death. "Mrs. Reynolds should mind her own business," he muttered, though there was no heat in his words. "I like Claire," Lily continued, as if he hadn't spoken. "She's pretty and nice, and Owen is okay for a little kid." Alex set down the hairbrush, turning Lily to face him. "Lily, honey, Claire and Owen live in Boston. They're just here on vacation." "So, Boston's not the moon, Dad." Alex laughed despite himself. "You've been listening to Mrs. Reynolds too much." Lily shrugged, her expression serious. "I just want you to be happy, Daddy." Alex pulled his daughter into a tight hug, his chest constricting with love for this small, wise soul. "I am happy, Lilipad. I've got you, don't I?" But as they headed out to meet Claire and Owen at the aquarium, Alex couldn't deny the flutter of anticipation in his stomach. It had been a long time since he'd felt this way, like something unexpected and wonderful might be just around the corner. Claire and Owen were waiting for them near the aquarium entrance. Claire wore a simple sundress that highlighted her tan shoulders, her dark hair loose around her face. She looked fresh and beautiful, and Alex felt that same jolt of attraction he'd experienced on the beach. "You made it," Owen exclaimed, rushing forward to greet them. He seemed to have developed a case of hero worship for Alex, his eyes wide with admiration. Claire's smile was warm as she approached. "We were just about to get tickets," she said, then quickly added before Alex could reach for his wallet, "which I've already taken care of." "Please, Alex, it's the least I can do." Alex wanted to protest, but he could see from Claire's expression that this was important to her. So he nodded his thanks instead, trying not to feel self-conscious about his inability to treat them in return. The aquarium proved to be a hit with both children. Owen, still somewhat subdued after his near-drowning experience, brightened considerably as they explored the exhibits. He was particularly fascinated by the shark tank, while Lily couldn't get enough of the seahorse display. As the children pressed their faces against the glass of a colorful coral reef exhibit, Alex and Claire stood slightly apart, watching them. "Owen seems to be doing okay after what happened," Alex observed quietly. Claire nodded, her eyes on her son. He had nightmares the first night, but he's resilient. Children usually are. She turned to look at Alex, her expression softening. How did Lily cope after her mother died? Alex leaned against the railing, considering the question. Few people asked him this directly, preferring to skirt around the painful subject. Some days were harder than others, he admitted. For both of us. Julie was sick for almost a year before she died, so we had time to prepare, if you can ever really prepare for something like that. But Lily was so young, just 3 when Julie was diagnosed, and 5 when she passed. He paused, remembering those dark days. There were nights when Lily would cry herself to sleep asking for her mom, and all I could do was hold her. Claire touched his arm gently. You've done an amazing job with her, Alex. She's a wonderful little girl. Alex smiled, grateful for the understanding in Claire's eyes. What about you? Raising Owen alone must have its challenges. A shadow passed over Claire's face. The divorce was not amicable. Richard wanted to focus on his career in London more than his family in Boston. He's not a bad father, he calls, sends gifts, takes Owen for a few weeks in the summer, but the day-to-day parenting falls to me. She shrugged, a rueful smile playing at her lips. Fortunately, I have resources that make it easier. I know how lucky I am in that regard. Before Alex could respond, both children came running back, excited about the touch pool they'd discovered around the corner. The moment for deeper conversation passed as they were pulled along to feel the rough skin of starfish and the slippery shells of small crabs. Throughout the day, Alex found himself increasingly aware of Claire, the light floral scent of her perfume, the musical quality of her laugh, the graceful way she moved. Several times their hands brushed accidentally as they walked, sending that same electric current through his body. Once, when they were watching a diving demonstration in the main tank, he caught her looking at him with an expression that made his heart race. By the time they stopped for a late lunch at the aquarium cafe, Alex felt like a teenager again, hyper-aware and slightly off balance. It didn't help that Lily and Owen seemed to have formed a conspiracy of their own, constantly arranging situations where Alex and Claire had to sit close together or speak privately. Lily's not usually this obvious, Alex murmured to Claire as their children ran ahead to secure a table. I think she's been talking to my neighbor, who fancies herself a matchmaker. Claire laughed, the sound warming something long cold inside Alex. Owen's the same. He's been asking since Tuesday when we would see you again. He told me at breakfast that you're way cooler than any of the men I've dated since his father. Alex raised an eyebrow. High praise indeed. Have there been many? Men since his father, I mean. The question slipped out before he could stop it, and he immediately felt his face grow warm. Sorry, that's personal. Claire didn't seem offended. A few, she admitted. None that lasted more than a few months. Between work and Owen, there hasn't been much time for serious relationships. She glanced at him sideways. What about you? Since Lily's mother? Alex shook his head. No one. Not really. He hesitated, then decided on honesty. After Julie died, dating seemed impossible. I was grieving, trying to raise Lily, working multiple jobs, and then as time passed, it just got easier not to try. They had reached the table where the children waited, but Claire's eyes held his for a moment longer. I understand, she said softly, but sometimes the best things happen when we're not trying. The rest of the day passed in a pleasant blur of marine exhibits and children's laughter. By the time they made their way to the exit, it was late afternoon, and Alex was dreading the inevitable goodbye. Outside the aquarium, as they stood in the warm sunshine, Claire surprised him by suggesting dinner. Nothing fancy, she assured him, perhaps sensing his hesitation. There's a pizza place just down the boardwalk that Owen loves. We could walk there together. Alex looked at Lily, who was nodding enthusiastically beside him. We'd like that, he said, unable to keep the smile from his face. The pizza place turned out to be casual and family-friendly, with an outdoor patio overlooking the beach. As they shared a large pepperoni pizza and watched the sun begin its descent toward the horizon, Alex felt more content than he had in years. The conversation flowed easily between them, covering everything from favorite movies to childhood memories. Claire, he learned, had grown up in a small town in Vermont before moving to Boston for college. She spoke about her parents with obvious affection, and Alex found himself sharing stories about his own childhood in Arizona. What Claire didn't mention, and what Alex didn't ask about, was her work. He assumed she held some kind of professional job, given her apparent financial comfort, but the specifics remained a mystery. As the evening progressed, Alex noticed Owen growing increasingly sleepy, his head nodding even as he insisted he wasn't tired. Lily, too, was fighting yawns, though she perked up whenever Claire spoke directly to her. "I think we should call it a day," Claire said regretfully, noticing Owen's drooping eyelids. "Someone needs to get to bed." Alex nodded, feeling the familiar pang of disappointment that came with endings. "It's been a wonderful day. Thank you for inviting us." As they gathered their things, Claire touched Alex's arm lightly. "I'd like to see you again before we leave," she said, her voice soft but determined. "We're here until Tuesday. Would you and Lily be free this weekend?" Alex's heart leapt at the prospect. "I'm working construction tomorrow, but I'm off Saturday and Sunday. I do have to bartend Saturday night, though." Claire's eyes lit up. "Perfect. What if we do something with the kids during the day on Saturday, and then—" She hesitated, a hint of nervousness crossing her face. "Maybe I could come see you at work that night. Just me after Owen is asleep. The hotel has a babysitting service." The suggestion caught Alex off guard. Was Claire asking to see him alone without the children? The thought both thrilled and terrified him. "You'd want to come to the bar?" he asked, trying to keep his voice casual. Claire nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Unless you'd rather I didn't." "No, I'd like that," Alex managed, feeling suddenly tongue-tied. "It's not fancy, just a hotel bar at the Shoreline Resort, but I don't need fancy," Claire interrupted gently. "I just want to see you." The simple honesty of her statement left Alex momentarily speechless. Beside him, Lily was watching the exchange with undisguised glee. "Then it's settled," Claire continued. "We'll do something fun with the kids during the day, and I'll come by your work in the evening. Say around 9, Alex nodded, still struggling to process the turn of events. 9 is perfect. They walked together toward the parking lot, the children trudging sleepily ahead of them. When they reached Claire's rental car, a moment of awkwardness descended as they both hesitated, unsure how to say goodbye. Finally, Claire leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to Alex's cheek. "Thank you for today," she whispered, her breath warm against his skin. Alex fought the urge to turn his head to find her lips with his. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently. "See you Saturday." As he drove home with a sleepy Lily beside him, Alex couldn't stop replaying the day in his mind. Claire's laughter, the brush of her hand against his, the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't noticing. For the first time in 5 years, he allowed himself to imagine a different kind of future, one where he wasn't alone. "Dad." Lily's drowsy voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Yes, Lillipad. I like Claire and Owen. They make you smile more." Alex reached over to squeeze his daughter's hand. "They make me smile too, kiddo. Do you like Claire? Like her?" Alex chuckled at the phrasing so typical of an 8-year-old. "I think I might," he admitted, the words feeling strange but right on his tongue. "Would that be okay with you?" Lily was quiet for a moment, considering. "Yeah," she finally said, "but we'd have to visit them in Boston sometimes. Owen showed me pictures of his house on his mom's phone. They have a pool." Alex's smile faltered slightly. The casual mention of Claire's apparent wealth was a stark reminder of the differences between their lives. What would someone like Claire think if she saw the small 2-bedroom apartment he and Lily called home? Would she still look at him with that warmth in her eyes if she understood just how modest his circumstances were? "Boston is very far away, Lily," he said gently, trying to manage his daughter's expectations along with his own. "And Claire and Owen are just vacation friends right now. But they could be more. Lily insisted, a stubborn note in her voice. You saved Owen, Dad. That's like in the fairy tales where the prince saves someone and then they fall in love. Alex couldn't help but laugh at his daughter's romantic notions. Life isn't quite like fairy tales, honey, but I promise to keep an open mind, okay? Lily seemed satisfied with this answer and soon drifted off to sleep. Alex drove the rest of the way home in silence, his thoughts still full of Claire and the possibilities of Saturday. Saturday morning found Alex unusually nervous as he prepared for their day with Claire and Owen. They had agreed to meet at a nearby nature preserve that featured hiking trails and wildlife viewing platforms. It was one of Alex and Lily's favorite places to visit when they had a free day, and importantly for Alex, it was an activity that cost nothing but time. He dressed in his best casual clothes, trying not to overthink the fact that he would be seeing Claire twice today, once with the children, and later alone at the bar. The thought of her coming to his workplace made him both excited and anxious. The Shoreline Resort Bar was upscale by local standards, but it was still just a hotel bar, and he was still just a part-time bartender there. Lily was practically bouncing with excitement as they drove to the nature preserve. She had insisted on wearing her favorite outdoorsy outfit, shorts with lots of pockets and a t-shirt featuring various woodland animals. Owen's never been hiking before, she informed Alex. I'm going to show him how to spot deer tracks and identify poison ivy. Alex smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. Just remember to stay where we can see you, okay? No running off ahead. They arrived at the preserve's entrance to find Claire and Owen already waiting. Claire looked beautiful in hiking shorts and a light blue top, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Owen wore a brand new-looking outdoor outfit, complete with a small backpack and hiking boots that still had their store shine. We may have overdone it a bit with the gear, Claire admitted with a laugh as they approached. Owen was so excited about going hiking that we made a special trip to the outdoor store yesterday. Alex grinned. You both look ready for an expedition, though these trails are pretty gentle. Good, because I'm more of a city girl, Claire confessed. The closest I usually get to wildlife is the occasional squirrel in Boston Common. The preserve proved to be a perfect choice. The summer morning was warm but not hot, with a gentle breeze rustling the leaves overhead as they walked the well-maintained trails. Lily took her role as nature guide seriously, pointing out interesting plants and insects to an increasingly fascinated Owen. Alex found himself walking beside Claire, their pace leisurely as they watched their children explore a few steps ahead. This is beautiful, Claire said, gazing up at the towering trees around them. I can see why you and Lily come here often, Alex nodded. It's our special place. When things get tough or Lily is having a bad day, we come here. Something about being in nature helps put things in perspective. You're very wise, Alex Turner, Claire said softly. He laughed, embarrassed by the compliment. Not wise, just trying to figure it out as I go, like every other parent. No, not like every other parent, Claire insisted. You're raising a wonderful daughter on your own, working 2 jobs, and still finding time to teach her what matters. That's extraordinary. Alex felt his face grow warm at her praise. You're doing a pretty amazing job with Owen yourself. Claire's expression turned thoughtful. I've tried. After the divorce, I was so afraid I wouldn't be enough for him, that he'd somehow be damaged by not having his father around full time. She paused, watching Owen as he crouched down to examine something Lily was showing him, but he's thriving. Children are more resilient than we give them credit for. They really are, Alex agreed. After Julie died, I was terrified. How could I possibly be both mother and father to Lily? But kids don't need perfect. They just need love and stability. Claire stopped walking, turning to face him fully. That's exactly it, and you've given Lily both in abundance. There was something in Claire's eyes that made Alex's heart race. For a wild moment, he thought she might kiss him right there on the trail, but the moment was interrupted by Owen's excited shout. Mom, Lily found a turtle. Come see. The rest of the morning passed in a pleasant blur of wildlife sightings and trail explorations. By midday, they had worked up an appetite and settled on one of the preserve's wooden picnic tables for lunch. Claire had brought an impressive spread of sandwiches, fruit, and homemade cookies that Owen proudly announced he had helped bake. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily between all four of them. Owen had overcome his initial shyness around Alex, and now peppered him with questions about everything from construction work to whether he thought sharks could beat whales in a fight. Lily, not to be outdone, had appointed herself Claire's special helper, offering to refill water bottles and distribute napkins. It was, Alex realized with a start, exactly like a family outing the kind he had given up hope of experiencing again after Julie died. The thought was both wonderful and terrifying. He had known Claire for less than a week. It was too soon to be thinking this way, too soon to be imagining futures that might never materialize. And yet, watching Claire laugh as she tried to wipe a smudge of dirt from Owen's cheek, Alex couldn't help the warmth that spread through his chest. He wanted more days like this. More importantly, he wanted Lily to have more days like this with a woman who looked at her with genuine interest and affection. After lunch, they continued their exploration, this time taking a different trail that led to a small lake. The children were delighted to discover a family of ducks swimming near the shore, and spent nearly half an hour watching the mother duck lead her ducklings through the water. It was late afternoon by the time they made their way back to the parking lot. Both children were pleasantly tired, their earlier energy subdued after hours of outdoor adventure. "This was perfect," Claire said as they reached their cars. "Thank you for sharing this place with us." "Thank you for coming," Alex replied, suddenly aware that their day together was ending. "Lily and I had a great time." Claire smiled, her eyes meeting his. "So we'll see you tonight, at the Shoreline Bar," Alex nodded, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in his stomach. "I start at 7. It's usually pretty busy on Saturdays, but things calm down after 10. "I'll be there around 9, Claire confirmed. "After I get Owen settled with the hotel sitter." As they said their goodbyes, Alex noticed Lily and Owen exchanging what appeared to be a secret handshake, complete with elaborate hand movements and a final fist bump. What was that about? He asked as they drove away, watching Claire's rental car disappear in the opposite direction. Lily shrugged, the picture of innocence. "Just a goodbye thing we made up. Owen says he wants to see me again before they go back to Boston." "I'm sure you will," Alex assured her, though he wasn't certain how many more times they would manage to meet before Claire and Owen's vacation ended. The thought sent a pang of sadness through him. "Dad," Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Yes, sweetheart." "Are you and Claire going on a date tonight? A real one without me and Owen?" Alex hesitated, unsure how to characterize Claire's planned visit to the bar. "Not exactly a date. She's just coming to see where I work." Lily made a skeptical noise. "Mrs. Reynolds says when grown-ups want to see each other without their kids, it's definitely a date." "Mrs. Reynolds talks too much," Alex muttered, though he couldn't help smiling at his daughter's persistence. "It's okay if you like Claire, Dad," Lily continued earnestly. "Mom would want you to be happy." Alex felt his throat tighten at the mention of Julie. "You think so, huh?" Lily nodded with the absolute certainty of childhood. "I know so. She told me to take care of you, remember, before she went to heaven. And you need someone to take care of you too, not just me." Alex reached over to squeeze his daughter's hand, overwhelmed by her simple wisdom. "When did you get so smart, Lillipad?" "I've always been smart, Dad," she replied with an exaggerated sigh. "You just haven't been listening." Alex laughed, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Maybe Lily was right. Maybe it was time to open himself up to possibilities again, to take a chance on happiness, by the time he dropped Lily off with Mrs. Reynolds for babysitting and made his way to the Shoreline Resort. Alex had almost convinced himself that Claire's visit was no big deal. Just a friendly drink between two adults who enjoyed each other's company. Nothing more. The bar was already bustling when he arrived for his shift, full of weekend tourists and locals enjoying the resort's ocean views. His colleague Maria raised an eyebrow as he tied on his black apron with unusual care. "You look different," she observed, passing him a drink order. "Got a hot date or something?" Alex felt his face warm. "No date, just a friend stopping by later." Maria didn't look convinced but let the subject drop as they fell into the familiar rhythm of a Saturday night rush mixing drinks, making small talk with customers, keeping the bar running smoothly. At precisely 9 o'clock, Alex looked up from pouring a martini to see Claire entering the bar. She had changed since their hike, now wearing a simple black dress that highlighted her slender frame. Her dark hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and even from across the room, Alex could see heads turning to watch her progress. She spotted him behind the bar and smiled, making her way through the crowd with graceful confidence. Alex finished the martini with slightly shaking hands and passed it to the waiting customer before moving to the section of bar where Claire had found an empty stool. "Hi," she said simply, her green eyes sparkling in the low light of the bar. "Hi yourself," Alex replied, suddenly feeling self-conscious in his bartender's uniform. "You look beautiful." Claire's smile widened. "Thank you, this place is lovely." Alex glanced around the bar with new eyes, trying to see it as Claire might. The Shoreline Bar was one of the nicer establishments in the area, with its polished wood and floor-to-ceiling windows offering nighttime views of the illuminated beach. Still, it was far from the upscale venues he imagined Claire was accustomed to in Boston. "What can I get you to drink?" he asked, falling back on the familiar script of bartending. "Surprise me," Claire answered. "Something not too sweet." Alex nodded, considering for a moment before gathering ingredients for one of his signature cocktails, a blend of good gin, fresh citrus, a hint of herbal liqueur, and a splash of soda water. He prepared it with extra care, aware of Claire watching his movements with interest. "You're very good at this," she observed as he presented the finished drink with a sprig of mint. "Thanks, I've had plenty of practice." He gestured to the busy bar around them. "I'm sorry I can't just sit and talk. Saturday nights are always hectic." Claire shook her head. "I don't mind watching you work. It's fascinating." For the next hour, Alex divided his attention between his regular customers and Claire. Whenever he had a free moment, he would drift back to her end of the bar, their conversation picking up easily despite the interruptions. Claire seemed genuinely interested in his bartending, asking about different spirits and techniques in a way that never felt condescending. As the evening progressed, the bar gradually emptied. By 10:30, only a handful of customers remained, and Maria indicated she could handle them if Alex wanted to take a break. "I can finally sit down for a minute," he said, coming around to the customer side of the bar to join Claire. "Sorry about that." Claire smiled, sipping the second cocktail he had made her. "Don't apologize. I've enjoyed watching you in your element. You're a natural with people." Alex shrugged, unused to such praise. "It's just part of the job. How's the drink?" "Perfect. You're wasted on this place, you know." You could be crafting cocktails at a top-tier restaurant or bar. The compliment made Alex uncomfortable, though he knew Claire meant it kindly. "I like it here," he said simply. "The hours work with Lily's schedule, and the tips are good." Claire studied him for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "You really are remarkable, Alex. The way you've built your life around what Lily needs. Not many men would make the sacrifices you have." Alex shifted in his seat, embarrassed by her admiration. "It's not sacrifice when it's for someone you love. Lily is everything to me." "I understand," Claire said softly. "I feel the same way about Owen." They fell into comfortable conversation, Claire telling him more about their life in Boston Owen's school, their favorite parks and restaurants, the townhouse they called home. Alex shared stories about Lily's adventures in 3rd grade, her budding interest in marine biology sparked by frequent beach visits, and their small but cozy apartment near the town center. What struck Alex most was how easy it was to talk to Claire. Despite the obvious differences in their circumstances, there was no awkwardness, no sense that she was judging him for his modest lifestyle. If anything, she seemed genuinely impressed by how he had built a life for himself and Lily after losing Julie. "It's getting late," Claire said eventually, glancing at her watch. "I should probably head back to check on Owen." Alex nodded, feeling the familiar pang of disappointment that came with goodbyes. "Of course. How long will the sitter stay?" "She's there until I return," Claire explained. "The hotel has a wonderful service, all certified childcare professionals." Alex hesitated, then took a chance. "My shift ends at midnight. If you'd like, we could take a walk on the beach after. It's beautiful at night and it's just outside." He rushed to add, "But I understand if you need to get back to Owen." Claire's eyes lit up. "I'd love that. Owen sleeps soundly, and the sitter will call if there's any problem. I can meet you back here at midnight." Alex nodded, a mixture of excitement and nervousness churning in his stomach. "It's a date." The words slipped out before he could stop them, hanging in the air between them. Claire's smile widened. "Yes," she agreed softly. "It is." After Claire left, the remaining hour of Alex's shift seemed to crawl by. He moved through his closing duties mechanically, his mind fixed on the impending beach walk. It had been so long since he'd been on a proper date that he felt like a teenager again, nervous and exhilarated all at once. At precisely midnight, Alex finished his shift, said goodnight to Maria, and stepped outside the resort to find Claire waiting. She had added a light cardigan over her dress against the night chill, her hair now gathered in a loose ponytail. "Ready for that beach walk?" she asked with a smile. Together, they made their way down the wooden boardwalk that led from the resort to the beach. The night was clear, a half moon casting silver light across the water and illuminating their path along the shore. The beach was nearly deserted at this hour, just a few late-night strollers in the distance. "I love the ocean at night," Claire said as they walked side by side, close but not quite touching. "It feels mysterious, almost magical." Alex nodded, breathing in the salt air. "It's when the beach belongs to itself again, not to the tourists or the locals, just the waves and the sand and the stars." Claire glanced at him, her expression soft in the moonlight. "You have a poet's soul, Alex Turner," he laughed, embarrassed. "Not really. I just spend a lot of time here with Lily. It's our thinking place." "Tell me more about her," Claire requested. "About both of you." As they walked along the shoreline, Alex found himself opening up in ways he rarely did. He told Claire about Julie's illness, about the dark days after her death when he wasn't sure how he would manage to go on, about the moment he realized that Lily needed him to be strong even when he didn't feel it. "That's when I decided to move here," he explained. "We were living in Phoenix, but Julie had always loved the ocean. I thought a fresh start might help us both heal." "And has it?" Claire asked gently. Alex considered the question, looking out at the endless expanse of water. "Yes, I think so. Lily is happy here. She has friends, she loves her school, she's thriving, and I—" He paused, searching for the right words. "I'm finding my way." "What about your dreams, Alex?" Claire's question was soft but direct. "Before Julie got sick, before everything changed, what did you want for yourself?" The question caught him off guard. It had been so long since he had thought about his own desires, separate from Lily's needs or their shared survival. "I was studying architecture," he admitted finally. "I wanted to design homes, buildings that would last. I had to drop out when Julie got sick, medical bills, and after she died, going back to school seemed impossible." Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. "But the dream is still there." It wasn't a question, but Alex answered anyway. "Yes, someday maybe when Lily's older. For now, construction and bartending pay the bills." They walked in silence for a moment, the only sound the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. Then Claire stopped, turning to face him fully. "You're an extraordinary man, Alex Turner," she said, her voice low and intense. "Do you know that?" Before he could respond, Claire closed the distance between them, her hand coming up to rest lightly against his cheek. In the moonlight, her eyes were luminous, filled with an emotion that made Alex's heart race. "I haven't felt this way in a very long time," she whispered. Alex swallowed hard, his pulse pounding in his ears. "Neither have I." He couldn't say who moved first, only that suddenly Claire was in his arms, her lips finding his in a kiss that sent electricity coursing through his body. He pulled her closer, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other at her waist. Claire made a soft sound against his mouth, her arms winding around his neck. The kiss deepened, years of loneliness and longing pouring into this single connection. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "Wow," Alex murmured, his forehead resting against hers. Claire laughed softly, her hands still on his shoulders. "That was overdue," Alex suggested with a smile. "Definitely." She kissed him again, more gently this time. "I've wanted to do that since the day you saved Owen." They continued their walk, hands now intertwined, stopping occasionally for more kisses that grew increasingly passionate. Alex felt 17 again, lost in the wonder of touching and being touched, in the heady sensation of desire awakening after years of dormancy. Eventually, they found a quiet spot to sit on the sand, Claire leaning back against Alex's chest as they gazed out at the moonlit ocean. His arms encircled her waist, holding her close in the cool night air. "I don't want to go back to Boston on Tuesday," Claire confessed, her head resting on his shoulder. Alex tightened his arms around her, his chest aching at the thought of her leaving. "I don't want you to go either." "This is crazy, isn't it?" She turned slightly to look up at him. "We've known each other less than a week." "Completely crazy," he agreed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But it doesn't feel crazy when I'm with you." Claire nodded, settling back against him. "With you, it feels like the most natural thing in the world." They stayed like that for a long time, talking softly about their children, their hopes, the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. Neither mentioned the looming reality of Claire's departure, or the 500 miles that would soon separate them. Finally, as the moon began its descent toward the horizon, Claire reluctantly announced that she should get back to Owen. Alex walked her to her resort, their fingers intertwined the entire way. At the entrance, they paused, both reluctant to say goodbye. "Can we see you tomorrow?" Claire asked. "Both of you. Owen's been talking nonstop about Lily since we got back tonight." Alex smiled, remembering Lily's similar enthusiasm. "We'd love that. I don't have any shifts tomorrow. It's my one completely free day of the week." "Perfect." Claire squeezed his hand. "Come to our resort around 10. We can spend the day at the pool, my treat." Alex hesitated, his pride warring with his desire to spend more time with Claire. The resort where she and Owen were staying was one of the most exclusive in the area, a place he could never afford to visit as a guest. Claire seemed to sense his discomfort. "Please, Alex. I want to share this with you and Lily." Looking into her earnest eyes, Alex found he couldn't refuse. "We'll be there." Claire leaned in for one last kiss, soft and lingering. "Good night, Alex." "Good night, Claire." As he walked home under the starry sky, Alex's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Joy at having found a connection he'd thought impossible. Fear that it would end too soon. Hope that somehow, against all odds, they might find a way to extend this beyond Claire's vacation. For the first time in 5 years, Alex allowed himself to dream of something more than just getting through each day. Something that included Claire's smile, Owen's exuberance, and a future where Lily wasn't the only one depending on him, but where he had someone to lean on as well. The next morning, Alex woke to find Lily already up and dressed in her swimsuit, a beach towel draped around her shoulders like a cape. "Are we going to Claire and Owen's hotel now?" she asked, bouncing on the edge of his bed. "You said we're going swimming at their fancy pool." Alex groaned, glancing at the clock. It was barely 7:30. "Not for a few hours, Lillipad. We're meeting them at 10, remember?" Lily flopped down beside him with a dramatic sigh. "But that's forever from now," Alex chuckled, pulling her into a hug. How about breakfast first? I'll make those chocolate chip pancakes you like. This suggestion successfully distracted Lily, and soon they were in the kitchen together, Alex mixing batter while Lily carefully added chocolate chips. As they worked, Alex found himself wondering what Claire and Owen were doing this morning. Were they having breakfast in the resort's fancy restaurant? Was Claire thinking about him the way he was thinking about her? "Dad, you're spilling the batter." Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Alex looked down to find pancake mixture dripping onto the counter. "Oops. Sorry, kiddo." "Guess my mind was elsewhere." Lily gave him a knowing look. "Were you thinking about Claire?" Alex considered denying it, then decided on honesty. "Yes, I was." "I knew it." Lily's face lit up with triumph. "Mrs. Reynolds says when grown-ups get that dreamy look, they're in love." "Whoa there," Alex cautioned, though he couldn't help smiling. "I like Claire very much, but love is a big word, Lily. It takes time to fall in love with someone." Lily shrugged, unimpressed by this adult logic. "Mom said she knew she loved you the first time you made her laugh." The simple statement caught Alex off guard. Julie had indeed told him something similar, though not until years into their relationship. He hadn't realized she'd shared that with Lily, too. "Your mom was special that way," he said softly. "She always knew her own heart." Lily nodded solemnly. "I think Claire is special, too, and she makes you laugh, Dad." Alex couldn't argue with that. Claire did make him laugh more than anyone had in years. She also made him feel seen in a way he had almost forgotten was possible. But love. After less than a week, the thought should have terrified him. Instead, it filled him with a quiet wonder. By 9:30, they were ready to leave for the resort, Lily practically vibrating with excitement. Alex had packed a bag with towels, sunscreen, and a few snacks, unwilling to rely entirely on Claire's hospitality, despite her insistence that everything would be taken care of. The Ocean View Resort lived up to its reputation. As Alex and Lily approached the main entrance, they were greeted by an imposing facade of glass and stone that seemed to rise organically from the surrounding landscape. The lobby was a soaring space with panoramic ocean views, staffed by immaculately dressed employees who smiled politely as they passed. Alex felt immediately out of place in his simple swim trunks and t-shirt, conscious of the worn edges of Lily's beach bag and the scuffed sandals on his feet. But Lily was too enthralled by the opulence around them to notice his discomfort, her eyes wide as she took in the marble floors and crystal chandeliers. "Dad, look at that fish tank. It's bigger than our whole apartment," she whispered, pointing to a massive aquarium that separated the lobby from the main restaurant. Before Alex could respond, he heard Owen's voice calling their names. The boy was racing toward them across the lobby, Claire following at a more sedate pace. Owen was already in his swim trunks, a resort-branded towel clutched in one hand. "You're here. Come on, the pool is amazing. There's a water slide and a lazy river and everything." Owen grabbed Lily's hand, already pulling her toward the terrace doors. Claire reached them, looking radiant in a simple white cover-up over what appeared to be a navy blue swimsuit. Her smile when she met Alex's eyes sent warmth cascading through his chest. "Good morning," she said softly, leaning in to brush a quick kiss against his cheek. "I'm glad you could make it." Alex smiled, his earlier discomfort fading in the light of her welcome. Wild horses couldn't have kept Lily away. She's been ready since dawn. They followed their excited children through the terrace doors and out to the resort's pool area. Alex had seen the pools from a distance. The resort was visible from many parts of the public beach, but up close, they were even more impressive. A series of interconnected lagoons cascaded down toward the ocean, featuring waterfalls, hidden grottos, and, as Owen had enthusiastically noted, a water slide that wound through artificial rock formations. "This is incredible," Alex murmured, taking in the scene. Claire looked pleased at his reaction. "Wait until you see our cabana. I reserved one for the day. It'll give us a home base and some shade when we need a break." She led them to a private poolside cabana equipped with comfortable loungers. a small table with fresh fruit and water, and even a television that Owen assured them they wouldn't need, because who watches TV when there's a super awesome pool? Once they had settled their things, the children wasted no time in heading for the water, with strict instructions from both parents to stay where they could be seen. This left Alex and Claire momentarily alone in the cabana, an awareness of last night's kisses hanging between them. "Hi," Claire said, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Hi yourself," Alex replied, echoing their exchange from the bar the previous evening. Claire moved closer, her hand finding his. "I didn't sleep much last night, couldn't stop thinking about our walk on the beach." Alex intertwined their fingers, the simple contact sending electricity up his arm. "Me neither. I kept wondering if I dreamed it all." Claire's smile was radiant. "Not a dream." She leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to his lips. "Definitely not a dream." For a moment, they simply stood there, foreheads touching, hands linked, savoring the connection. Then a splash and Lily's delighted squeal pulled them back to their parental duties. The day passed in a blur of sunshine, laughter, and water play. Alex couldn't remember the last time he had simply relaxed and enjoyed himself this way, without worrying about bills or work schedules or all the responsibilities that usually weighed on his shoulders. Claire seemed determined to ensure they all had the perfect day, ordering lunch to the cabana and making sure everyone had everything they needed. In the early afternoon, while the children were engrossed in a game of Marco Polo with some other kids they'd met, Claire and Alex lounged side by side on the cabana's comfortable seats, watching the poolside activity. "This has been perfect," Alex said, taking a sip of the fruit-infused water that had been regularly refreshed throughout the day. "Thank you for inviting us." Claire turned to face him, her expression suddenly serious. "I've been thinking, Alex, about what happens after Tuesday." The mention of her departure date sent a pang through Alex's chest. "I've been trying not to think about that," he admitted. Claire took his hand, her fingers cool against his sun-warmed skin. "I don't want this to end when we go back to Boston." Alex met her gaze, hope and doubt warring within him. "I don't want it to end either, but Boston is far, Claire, and our lives are so different. Distance can be managed," she said firmly. "And as for our lives being different, does that really matter? What matters is how we feel when we're together, how the children feel." She gestured toward the pool where Lily and Owen were now playing a game of catch with a soft ball, their laughter carrying across the water. "Look at them, Alex. They've bonded so quickly." Alex watched their children, his heart full. It was true Lily and Owen had formed a connection that seemed to go beyond a simple vacation friendship, and his own feelings for Claire. "I'm falling for you," he said quietly, the words slipping out before he could reconsider. "I know it's fast, probably too fast, but I can't deny it." Claire's eyes filled with emotion. "I'm falling for you too, and yes, it's fast, but sometimes the right things happen at warp speed." She squeezed his hand. "I want to see where this goes, Alex. I want to give us a real chance." "How?" The practical question escaped before he could stop it. "I have responsibilities here, my job's Lily's school, and you have your life in Boston." Claire hesitated, seeming to weigh her words carefully. "There's something I need to tell you, Alex, something I probably should have mentioned earlier." A flicker of unease passed through him. "What is it?" "It's about what I do for work." But before she could continue, they were interrupted by Owen and Lily, dripping wet and demanding attention. "Mom, Dad, can we get ice cream? The snack bar has the most amazing sundaes ever." Owen exclaimed, pointing toward a poolside cafe. Claire sighed, squeezing Alex's hand once more before turning to the children. "Of course. Ice cream sounds perfect." The moment for serious conversation passed as they accompanied the children to the snack bar, where both Owen and Lily ordered elaborately decorated sundaes that left them with chocolate-smeared grins. By unspoken agreement, Alex and Claire set aside their discussion, focusing instead on enjoying the remainder of their day together. As afternoon turned to evening, the pool area began to empty. both children were showing signs of fatigue after hours of swimming, their energy finally flagging as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. "Time to head home, Lillipad," Alex said gently, noting Lily's increasingly heavy eyelids. "You're about to fall asleep standing up." Claire nodded, gathering their belongings. "We should call it a day too, Owen. You're practically sleepwalking." The children protested half-heartedly, but it was clear they were exhausted. As they packed up their things and prepared to leave, Claire pulled Alex aside. "Come to dinner tomorrow night," she said, her voice low. "Just the two of us. There's a restaurant on the top floor of the resort that's supposed to have the best view in town. We can finish our conversation." Alex hesitated, thinking of his worn casual clothes and the prices such a restaurant was likely to charge. "Claire, please," she interrupted, seeming to sense his objection. "It's important to me. 7 o'clock. Looking into her hopeful eyes, Alex found he couldn't refuse. 7 o'clock, he agreed. Claire smiled, pressing a quick kiss to his lips. "Perfect. I'll make the reservation." They said their goodbyes in the lobby, the children exchanging their elaborate handshake once more, this time with added flourishes that seemed to hold special meaning for them. Claire hugged Lily warmly, whispering something in her ear that made the little girl beam with pleasure. Then she turned to Alex, her eyes conveying everything she couldn't say in front of the children. "Until tomorrow," she said softly. On the drive home, Lily was uncharacteristically quiet, her usual post-swimming exhaustion evident in her drooping shoulders and half-closed eyes. "Did you have fun today, Lillipad?" Alex asked. Lily nodded, summoning a tired smile. "It was the best day ever. Can we do it again tomorrow?" Alex shook his head gently. "Not tomorrow, honey. I have to work in the morning, and I'm having dinner with Claire tomorrow night." This news seemed to revive Lily slightly. "A real date, just the two of you." "Yes, a real date," Alex admitted. "Mrs. Reynolds will stay with you." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Dad, if you and Claire decide you love each other, would we move to Boston? Or would they move here?" The question caught Alex off guard. "Whoa, kiddo, we're not anywhere near those kinds of decisions yet. Claire and I are just getting to know each other." "But if you did," Lily persisted, "would we move there or would they move here?" Alex sighed, realizing his daughter wouldn't be satisfied with evasions. "I don't know, Lily. Those are complicated adult decisions that depend on a lot of factors." "Like what?" "Like jobs and schools and where we can afford to live," Alex explained. "Claire has an established life in Boston, and we have our life here." Lily considered this. "But you could be an architect in Boston, couldn't you? You always said you wanted to go back to school someday." Alex glanced at his daughter in surprise. "You remember me talking about that?" Lily nodded solemnly. "You told me stories about Mom and you in college and how you were going to design beautiful buildings someday." The fact that Lily remembered these casual mentions of his old dreams touched Alex deeply. "That was the plan once upon a time," he acknowledged. "But things change, Lillipad. Life takes different turns." "Maybe this is a turn," Lily suggested, her young face serious in the fading light. "Maybe Claire is a turn in our road." Out of the mouths of babes, Alex thought, amazed once again by his daughter's perception. "Maybe she is," he agreed softly. "We'll just have to wait and see where the road leads." By the time they reached home, Lily was nearly asleep. Alex carried her inside, helped her change into pajamas, and tucked her into bed. As he turned to leave, Lily's small voice stopped him. "Dad, I like Claire a lot. I wouldn't mind if she became part of our family someday." Alex's throat tightened with emotion. He returned to Lily's bedside, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "I like her too, Lillipad. Now get some sleep, okay?" As he prepared for bed himself, Alex's thoughts were a tumultuous mix of hope and anxiety. Tomorrow's dinner with Claire loomed large in his mind, not just the practicalities of what to wear or how to afford his portion of the bill, but the weightier matters they needed to discuss. What future could there be for a relationship, started under such unusual circumstances, between people from such different worlds? And yet, As he drifted towards sleep, Alex found himself remembering Claire's smile, the feel of her hand in his, the way she looked at him as if he were something precious. Maybe, just maybe, the differences between them didn't matter as much as what they shared. Monday evening found Alex standing in front of the mirror in his small bathroom, adjusting the tie he had dug out of the back of his closet. It had been years since he had worn a suit, not since Julie's funeral, in fact. The thought sent a pang through his chest, but it wasn't the sharp pain he had once known. Now it was a gentler ache, a bittersweet remembrance that had softened with time. "You look very handsome, Dad," Lily said from the doorway, watching him with approval. "Claire is going to think you're super fancy." Alex laughed, tugging at the slightly too tight collar of his shirt. "I'm not sure about super fancy, but I'm doing my best." Mrs. Reynolds appeared behind Lily, her eyes widening at the sight of Alex in his suit. "My goodness, Alex Turner. You clean up nice." She patted her silver hair, a gesture she always made when flustered. "This must be some special dinner." "It's just a thank you meal," Alex said automatically, though he knew it was far more than that. Mrs. Reynolds gave him a knowing look but refrained from comment. Instead, she placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. "Come on, sweetie. Let's let your dad finish getting ready. I've got pizza and a new Disney movie all queued up for our evening." As they left, Alex checked his reflection one last time. The suit was a bit dated, and definitely tighter than he remembered, but it would have to do. He couldn't help but wonder what Claire would be wearing, something designer and elegant, no doubt, that would make his department store suit look even more out of place. But as he drove to the resort, Alex reminded himself that Claire had never once made him feel inferior because of his circumstances. If anything, she seemed to admire the life he had built for himself and Lily. Perhaps the differences in their financial situations loomed larger in his own mind than in hers. The Ocean View Resort was even more intimidating in the evening, its facade dramatically lit against the darkening sky. Alex handed his keys to the valet with some trepidation. His old Honda Civic looked decidedly out of place among the luxury vehicles in the circular drive. Inside, he took the elevator to the top floor, as Claire had instructed. The doors opened to reveal a dimly lit, elegant space with panoramic windows showcasing a breathtaking view of the coastline. A maitre d' in a crisp black suit approached immediately. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" "I'm meeting someone," Alex explained. "Claire Wilson." The man's demeanor shifted subtly, becoming even more deferential. "Of course. Miss Wilson is already seated. Please follow me." Alex was led through the restaurant, past tables of well-dressed diners to a secluded corner by the windows. And there was Claire, rising to greet him, a vision in a simple but clearly expensive midnight blue dress that highlighted her slender figure and brought out the green of her eyes. "Alex," she said warmly, reaching for his hands. "You look wonderful." He leaned in to kiss her cheek, catching the subtle scent of her perfume. "Not nearly as wonderful as you. That dress is stunning." Claire's smile lit up her face as they sat down, a bottle of champagne already chilling in an ice bucket beside their table. "I took the liberty of ordering champagne," she said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. "I thought we might have something to celebrate." Before Alex could ask what she meant, a waiter appeared to pour the champagne and distribute menus. Alex glanced briefly at his, trying not to react to the prices listed beside each dish. "Please order whatever you'd like," Claire said softly, noticing his hesitation. "This evening is my treat, Alex. No arguments." He wanted to protest, but saw the determination in her eyes. "Thank you," he said simply, deciding to accept her generosity with grace. After they had ordered Alex, choosing the grilled sea bass at Claire's recommendation, Claire reached across the table to take his hand. "There's something I need to tell you," she began, echoing her words from the previous day. "Something I should have mentioned earlier, but I was afraid it might change things between us." Alex felt a flicker of apprehension. "You can tell me anything, Claire." She took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around his. It's about what I do for work. The truth is, I'm the CEO and majority owner of Wilson Technologies. It's a software company specializing in healthcare applications. Alex blinked, the name sounding vaguely familiar. Wilson Technologies. Wait, isn't that the company that developed that revolutionary patient monitoring system? I remember seeing something about it on the news. Claire nodded, looking both proud and slightly embarrassed. Yes, that's us. We've grown exponentially in the last 5 years. The company was originally founded by my father, but I took over when he retired and expanded our healthcare division. The implications of what she was saying slowly dawned on Alex. Wilson Technologies wasn't just some small business, it was a major player in the tech industry. Which meant Claire wasn't just comfortable, she was wealthy. Very wealthy. I see, he said finally, unsure how to respond. Claire squeezed his hand, her eyes searching his face. I didn't tell you right away because I wanted you to get to know me, the real me, without any preconceptions. People treat you differently when they know you have money, Alex. They either want something from you, or they put you on some kind of pedestal, or they assume you're some kind of entitled snob. Alex could understand that, but still felt a twinge of hurt that she hadn't trusted him with this information sooner. I wouldn't have thought any of those things, Claire. I know that now, she said earnestly, but when we first met, when you saved Owen, I was just so grateful, so moved by what you did. And then, as we spent time together, I saw what an incredible father you are, how hard you work, how much you love your daughter. I didn't want my financial situation to create a barrier between us. Their conversation paused as the waiter returned with their appetizers. Once they were alone again, Alex asked the question that had been forming in his mind. Why are you telling me this now? Claire set down her fork, her expression serious. Because I meant what I said yesterday about wanting to see where this goes between us. About not wanting things to end when Owen and I return to Boston. And if we're going to have any kind of future, Alex, we need to be completely honest with each other. The word future sent a jolt through Alex's system. Despite their conversations, despite the connection they'd formed, part of him had been treating this as a vacation romance, intense, but ultimately temporary. To hear Claire speak so openly about a future together made it suddenly, startlingly real. I want that too, he admitted. But Claire, our lives are so different. You run a major technology company. I'm a construction worker who bartends on the side to make ends meet. Those are just jobs, Alex, Claire said firmly. They're not who we are. Who we are is a father and mother who would do anything for our children. Who we are is two people who have found something rare and precious in each other, against all odds. The simple truth of her words struck Alex deeply. Yes, their circumstances were different, but at their core, they were remarkably similar, both single parents who had rebuilt their lives around their children, both searching for connection in a world that often felt isolated and lonely. You're right, he said finally. But practically speaking, how would this work? You live in Boston, running a company you can't just leave. I live here with Lily's school and friends and our whole support system. Claire nodded, acknowledging the legitimate concerns. That's what I wanted to talk about. I have a proposal, not a solution, necessarily, but a starting point. Alex took a sip of his champagne, curious despite his reservations. I'm listening. Wilson Technologies has been considering opening a satellite office in this region for some time now. The tech talent pool is growing here, and the cost of living is more attractive than Boston for many employees. Claire paused, gauging his reaction. I could accelerate those plans. Split my time between here and Boston while we get the new office established. It would mean I'd be here at least 2 weeks out of every month. Alex blinked, surprised by the practical nature of her suggestion. You would do that. Claire's expression was earnest. I would. Owen and I could keep an apartment here, and he could either enroll in school part-time or we could arrange for a tutor during our stays. It wouldn't be ideal, but it would give us time together, real time, not just rushed weekends to see if what we're feeling has lasting potential. And your company would be okay with that arrangement. A small smile played at Claire's lips. Being the CEO has its advantages. As long as the work gets done and the company continues to thrive, the board gives me considerable latitude. Alex let the idea sink in. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a thoughtful, practical step that acknowledged the realities of their situations while still creating space for their relationship to develop. "What about Owen?" he asked. "How would he feel about splitting his time this way?" "He'd be thrilled," Claire said with certainty. "He's already asked me 3 times if we can move here permanently. He's quite taken with both the beach and with Lily." Alex smiled, thinking of his own daughter's attachment to Owen. Lily would be over the moon. She's already planning playdates for months in advance. Their main courses arrived, temporarily pausing their conversation again. As they began to eat, Alex found his mind racing with possibilities. Claire's proposal was generous and practical, but it also represented a major commitment on her part, rearranging her business and her son's life to pursue what was still a very new relationship. "What are you thinking?" Claire asked gently, noticing his silence. Alex looked up from his plate, meeting her concerned gaze. "I'm thinking that you're offering to turn your life upside down for us. That's a lot, Claire." "It's not just for you," she replied. "It's for me too, for Owen, for the chance at something I thought I might never find again." She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "I know it's fast, Alex. I know we've only known each other a week, but sometimes you just know when something is right." The sincerity in her voice, the openness in her expression, dissolved the last of Alex's doubts. He turned his hand to catch hers, intertwining their fingers. "I feel it too," he admitted. "This connection between us, it's not something I've felt since Julie. I didn't think I would ever feel it again." He took a deep breath, making a decision. "Let's do it. Let's give this a real chance." Claire's face lit up with joy, her eyes shining in the soft restaurant lighting. "Really?" Alex nodded, certainty settling in his chest. "Really. We'll take it one day at a time, see how it works with your schedule and the kids, but I want to try, Claire. I want to see where this goes." Claire lifted her champagne glass, her smile radiant. "To new beginnings, then." Alex clinked his glass against hers. "To new beginnings." The rest of the dinner passed in a pleasant blur as they discussed practical details when Claire would return after going back to Boston. How they would explain the arrangement to the children, what they might do together during her stays. By the time dessert arrived, a shared chocolate soufflé that the chef had insisted they try, Alex felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in years. After dinner, they took a walk along the resort's private beach, hand in hand under the starry sky. The night was warm, with a gentle breeze carrying the salt scent of the ocean. "I still can't believe this is happening," Alex said as they paused to watch the moonlight play across the water. "A week ago, my life was work and Lily, day in and day out, and now." Claire prompted, turning to face him. Alex pulled her close, one hand cradling her face. "And now I'm standing on a beach with the most beautiful, intelligent, compassionate woman I've ever met, planning a future I never dared to imagine." Claire's eyes shimmered with emotion. "I never expected to find you either, Alex. When Owen and I came here for vacation, I was just hoping for some relaxation, some time to reconnect with my son away from work pressures. I certainly wasn't looking for love." The word hung between them, both an acknowledgement and a question. Alex drew a deep breath, recognizing the moment for what it was. "I'm falling in love with you, Claire Wilson," he said softly. "I know it's fast, but I'm done pretending it's anything else." Claire's smile was like the sunrise, gradual, and then suddenly brilliant. "I'm falling in love with you too, Alex Turner. Actually, I think I started falling the moment you came out of that ocean with my son in your arms." Their kiss was different from those they had shared before, deeper, more certain, filled with promise rather than question. Alex held Claire close, marveling at the twist of fate that had brought them together. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Claire rested her forehead against his chest. "I don't want to go back to Boston tomorrow," she murmured. It's not goodbye, Alex reminded her, stroking her hair. It's just see you soon, you'll be back before we know it. Claire nodded against his chest. 2 weeks. I've already decided. I'll arrange things at the office, talk to Owen's school, and be back here in 2 weeks. Alex tightened his arms around her. Lily and I will be counting the days. They stayed on the beach for a long time, talking and planning and simply being together. When Alex finally walked Claire back to her hotel room, both were reluctant to part. Will you bring Lily to see us off tomorrow? Claire asked as they stood outside her door. Our flight is at noon, Alex nodded. Of course. I'll pick her up from school at 11, we wouldn't miss it. One last lingering kiss, and then Claire disappeared into her room, leaving Alex to walk back to his car with a heart fuller than it had been in years. The next morning dawned clear and bright, as if the weather itself was determined to make Claire and Owen's departure as beautiful as possible. Alex went to work as usual at the construction site, but his mind was elsewhere, replaying moments from the previous evening and looking forward to seeing Claire one more time before she left. At precisely 11, he picked up Lily from school, having already cleared her early dismissal with the office. Lily was bubbling with excitement about saying goodbye to Owen and Claire, though Alex had carefully explained that it wasn't a permanent goodbye. Claire is coming back in 2 weeks, he reminded his daughter as they drove toward the resort. And she'll be bringing Owen with her. They're going to stay here for at least 2 weeks every month. Lily's eyes widened. Really? You mean we'll get to see them all the time? Alex nodded, his own excitement barely contained. That's right, Lilipad. They're going to be a big part of our lives from now on. Because you love Claire, Lily stated with the simple certainty of childhood. Alex glanced at his daughter, surprised by her perceptiveness. I'm getting there, he admitted. What about you? How do you feel about seeing more of Claire and Owen? Lily considered the question with surprising seriousness. I think it's good, she finally declared. Owen is fun, even if he's younger than me, and Claire is nice. She listens to me like Mom used to, like what I say matters. The comparison to Julie brought a lump to Alex's throat. Your words always matter, Lilipad. Lily nodded, satisfied with his response. I know, but it's nice when grown-ups who aren't my dad think so too. When they arrived at the resort, Claire and Owen were waiting in the lobby, their luggage already loaded into the airport shuttle. Owen ran to greet them, his excitement barely contained. Lily, we're coming back in 2 weeks. Mom said we might even go to your school sometimes when we're here. The children fell into animated conversation, already planning future adventures. Alex approached Claire, who was watching the scene with a soft smile. Good morning, he said, taking her hand. Claire's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of happiness and reluctance. Good morning. I can't believe we're leaving already. 2 weeks will go by fast, Alex assured her, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. And we'll talk every day. Claire nodded, squeezing his hand. Every day, twice a day if you can stand it. The airport shuttle driver approached, announcing it was time to depart. Owen hugged Lily fiercely, then surprised Alex by throwing his arms around him as well. Take care of Lily until we come back, he instructed solemnly. And don't forget to practice your cannonball. I'm going to practice mine in Boston, Alex laughed, touched by the boy's concern. I promise, buddy, you take care of your mom, okay? Owen nodded, his expression serious. I always do. Claire knelt to hug Lily, whispering something in her ear that made the little girl smile. Then she stood to face Alex, her composure slipping slightly as emotion overtook her. I'm going to miss you, she said softly. Alex pulled her into his arms, no longer concerned about appearances or propriety. I'm going to miss you too, but this isn't an ending, Claire, it's a beginning. Claire nodded against his chest, then tilted her face up for a kiss. Alex obliged, keeping it gentle but allowing some of the depth of his feelings to show. 2 weeks, she whispered as they parted. 2 weeks, he confirmed. Then she was gathering Owen, collecting their carry-on bags and following the driver to the waiting shuttle. At the door, she turned for one last wave, her smile bright despite the tears in her eyes. As the shuttle pulled away, Lily slipped her hand into Alex's. "Don't be sad, Dad. They'll be back before you know it." Alex looked down at his daughter, his heart full of love for this wise little soul. "You're right, Lillipad, they'll be back soon. And then we'll be a family," Lily continued confidently. "Not the same as before, but still good. A family." The word echoed in Alex's mind, filling spaces he had thought would remain empty forever. "Yes," he agreed softly. "Still good." Together, they walked back to their car, the future stretching before them like the endless ocean, vast, unpredictable, and full of promise. 5 years later, Alex stood on the deck of their beachfront home, watching the sunset paint the sky in spectacular shades of orange and pink. Behind him, the sounds of laughter and conversation drifted through the open French doors, Lily and Owen arguing good-naturedly over a board game, Mrs. Reynolds fussing over the dinner table, Claire's voice rising occasionally to mediate between the siblings. So much had changed in 5 years, and yet the most important things had remained constant: his love for Lily, now a confident 13-year-old with her mother's smile and her own fierce intelligence. His growing relationship with Owen, who at 12 had become the son he never expected to have, and his deep, abiding love for Claire, who had transformed his life in ways he was still discovering. Claire's plan to split her time between Boston and their coastal town had worked for nearly a year, with both adults and children adapting to the arrangement with surprising ease. But as the Wilson Technologies satellite office had grown and thrived under Claire's direction, the decision to make a more permanent move had seemed inevitable. They had married 3 years ago in a simple beachfront ceremony, with Lily and Owen standing beside them as their only attendants. By then, they were already living together in the home Claire had purchased, a beautiful but not ostentatious house overlooking the same stretch of beach where Alex had once rescued Owen. The transition hadn't been without challenges. Alex had struggled initially with the financial imbalance between them. With accepting that Claire could provide a level of comfort and security he had never been able to offer Lily on his own. But Claire's sensitivity to his pride, and her genuine lack of concern for material things, had helped ease the way. What had proven most healing was Claire's unwavering support for Alex's return to his original passion. With her encouragement, he had enrolled in architecture courses at the local college, completing his long-abandoned degree while continuing to work part-time in construction. Now, he was a junior architect at a respected local firm, designing the homes and buildings he had once only dreamed about. The sound of small feet pattering across the deck interrupted his thoughts. 3-year-old Julie, named for the mother Lily still spoke of with love and reverence, toddled toward him with her arms outstretched. "Daddy up," she demanded, her dark curls so like Claire's bouncing with each step. Alex scooped his youngest daughter into his arms, pressing a kiss to her chubby cheek. "What are you doing out here, Peanut? Escaping from the dinner preparations?" Julie nodded solemnly. "Grandma Reynolds says too many cooks." Alex laughed, recognizing Mrs. Reynolds' favorite expression. The elderly neighbor had become even more integrated into their lives after the marriage, a beloved honorary grandmother to all 3 children. "Well, we can't have too many cooks," he agreed, settling Julie on his hip. "Shall we watch the sunset together instead?" Julie pointed toward the horizon, where the sun was slipping into the ocean in a final blaze of glory. "Pretty," she declared with the simple appreciation of the very young. "Very pretty," Alex agreed. The glass door slid open behind them, and Claire stepped out onto the deck. Even after all these years, the sight of her still made Alex's heart skip a beat. "There you are," she said, coming to stand beside them. "Dinner's almost ready. Mrs. Reynolds has outdone herself again." Alex slipped his free arm around Claire's waist, pulling her close. "Just watching the sunset with our escape artist here." Claire smiled, reaching out to brush a curl from Julie's forehead. "She's definitely got your adventurous spirit." "And your determination," Alex countered, remembering the fierce look in Claire's eyes when she had first proposed splitting her time to make their relationship work. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching as the last sliver of sun disappeared beneath the horizon. Julie rested her head against Alex's shoulder, her eyelids growing heavy despite the early hour. "Penny for your thoughts," Claire said softly, noticing his contemplative expression. Alex turned to his wife, taking in the features he had come to know as well as his own, the slight crinkle around her eyes when she smiled, the elegant curve of her neck, the determined set of her chin. "I was just thinking about how different our lives might have been if I hadn't been on that beach 5 years ago," he admitted. "If I hadn't seen Owen struggling in the water." Claire's expression softened. "I think about that too sometimes, how close we came to never meeting at all." "But we did meet," Alex said, tightening his arm around her waist. "And everything changed." Claire leaned her head against his shoulder, mirroring their daughter's position. "For the better, definitely for the better." The moment was interrupted by Lily's voice calling from inside. "Mom, Dad." "Dinner's ready, and Owen is threatening to eat all the garlic bread," Claire laughed, straightening up. "We'd better get in there before civil war breaks out over the garlic bread." Alex nodded, shifting Julie in his arms. "Lead the way." As they turned toward the house, Julie lifted her head sleepily. "Love you, Daddy," she murmured, the simple declaration warming Alex's heart. "Love you too, Peanut," he replied, meeting Claire's eyes over their daughter's head. "And Mommy too, always." Claire's smile was radiant in the fading light. "Always," she echoed. Together, they walked back into the warm, noisy heart of their home, surrounded by the family they had built together, not through blood or obligation, but through choice and love and the extraordinary chance encounter that had changed everything.